Thank you very much, and I apologize, but my Turkish is very, very limited to saying hello and thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the Department of Geology of METU for inviting me and having the opportunity to share with you some of the experience that our university and the Global Water for Sustainability program has undertaken in relation to water security. Also, if you allow me, I would like to express my congratulations to the founders and today's professors at the Department of Geology for their 50th anniversary. It has been very impressive to see the number of congresses and conferences that has taken place during this year, and it definitely shows the caliber of the professional staff and the scientific knowledge of the scientists and researchers at the university, and in particular of this department. So congratulations. Allow me to spend a few minutes introducing myself. I am, as it was indicated in your program, Maria DONOSO. I am the director of the Global Water for Sustainability program at Florida International University. My bachelor's degree in civil engineering and a master's degree in hydraulic engineering from the People's Friendship University in Russia, an ocean engineering degree from the University of Miami. I also did doctoral studies at the University of Miami, and I have a doctor honoris causa from the University Federico Villarreal in Peru. The reason why I will be presenting in this opportunity not just a very quick review about my university, FIU, and also the Global Water for Sustainability program, but as you can see, I have been also tasked to present to you the IHP 8th phase of UNESCO, which starts next year, because of myself being the chairperson actually, of the committee, international committee that put together the strategy for the next 8 years of the UNESCO IHP program. So let me give you a brief overview of what is FIU. FIU is a leading student-centered entity or institution. It is a public institution. It's funded by the state of Florida mostly, but of course also by the federal government and other types of funding that comes to the university. It is a locally and globally engaged. The university has a very international approach to research and education. I would like to say that the university has the highest number of Latin American students in the United States, and also one of the highest percentage of professors from non-US origin in the United States. So it's quite international, not just in our name, but also in the philosophy. And one difference between this particular university and other universities in Florida and in the United States is that it is very much oriented in terms of the research that we do towards development. So we concentrate on applied research, and in that context, mostly in terms of promoting and helping developing countries. We have a multicultural approach to applied research, but also we involved colleagues and partners from various countries around the world. And we also have, not me particular, but there are a number of colleagues in the School of Engineering that has had ties with various universities here in Turkey. So we envisioned to prepare students as a global citizens of the world, and that is basically what guides the academic and research activities that we develop at the university. So within the university, we have the Global Water for Sustainability program, which emerges into a Global Water for Sustainability unit. Now, the Global Water for Sustainability program is really not a university program. It is a consortium with 90% of it is financed by the United States Agency for Development, and the objective of this program is to increase the social, economic, environmental benefits of the people in the developing world. And in that context, we work in multiple disciplines that are related to fresh water. Among them, we have in WASH, which is water supply, sanitation, and hygiene, but we also support the development of water management practices, as well as help countries and contribute to water security, as well as to building local capacities in the water sector, in the universities, in areas related to water resources management, and in communities. The GLOWS program is conformed by a consortium of organizations that some of which you will definitely probably relate to, such as CARE International, Windrock International, World Vision, WWF, and WaterAid. These are the core members of the consortium, but we have about 25 other organizations, among them the UNESCO IHE Institute in Delft, that are co-partners. All of these organizations bring together a myriad of contributions in terms of knowledge of technology in areas which, as I mentioned, are sanitation, water productivity, water security, as well as water resources management and freshwater ecosystem management. The lead institution or lead organization of the GLOWS program or consortium is Florida International University. A lot of people ask me why a university is the lead in a consortium that supports development. And the reason is that we are a neutral entity and that brings together various organizations, but at the same time provide a scientific-based support and leadership in terms of the consortium. The consortium also works with the private sector. One of our major partners in the consortium is the Coca-Cola Company at the international level under the Water and Development Alliance, or WADA. And we have developed multiple projects with the Coca-Cola in the context of WADA, among them in Morocco, in Tanzania, Kenya, and in other places of the world. This is basically to support sustainable, market-driven water supply, sanitation, and hygiene services. With Coca-Cola, we also support local and regional partners in terms of developing water resources management frameworks. And of course, being Coca-Cola a private company, we also work in applied research related to the sustainable use of water at the industry level. So in a nutshell, in summary, FIU GLOWS is projects and expands ongoing funded programs, mostly, as I indicated previously, by USAID, but also we support the creation of technology and innovation in developing countries. At the same time, we work in developing capacity, and in that context, we work very closely with universities in the various regions that we're engaged in developing curricula, for example, for water resources management or for other areas of water sciences. Our vision is to see water at the center of the various activities that we develop. So we work towards creating an equitable and sustainable water services aimed to meet the needs of the various populations at different levels. In that context, we see health, livelihoods, and environment, and those are our three main areas of work. Through the health program, we mostly support hygiene and sanitation, but also in terms of activities related to nutrition. In terms of livelihoods, our focus is to enhance, again, food security and, most importantly, income generation. So in our applied research has the ultimate goal to provide support to community level and a local level CBOs or community-based organization to improve their livelihoods and to generate income. So we have a, I would say, private sector approach to applied research. It's not just science per science, but our ultimate goal is for this science to support communities in their development. And of course, all of this has to be done with thinking about the environment, and it has to be in using technologies or applications that are environmentally friendly and that support the health of the ecosystems in the places where we are having interventions. So in terms of our contributions to international development, we had worked and are working in many countries of the world, and what I will try to do now is to focus on the second part of my presentation, which is the activities and programs that GLOS is developing, and try to use them to give some example as to how we address the context of water security. And hopefully this will give you some examples that could also be applied within your country. So presently, GLOS is involved in various projects around the world, in Latin America, in particular Peru, Mexico, but also we work in Tanzania, Morocco, Kenya, very close to you, the Republic of Georgia, Ghana, Niger, Burkina Faso, Mexico, Honduras, and Rwanda. In this map, you can see the dots that are blue. These are present currents that are taking place. The dots in white represent projects that have ended in the past year, and then the red projects are projects that are in the process of being initiated between the end of this year and the first quarter of next year. So you can see our broad concentrations is in Africa and the Americas, but we also work in a little bit in Asia and also close to home here. So as I said, I'll try to go through some of our projects, and I've chosen first to talk about the Morocco Water and Development Alliance, which was a project that ended last year, but it was particularly interested because in this project we work with nomad communities in the desert. That is, communities that really do not have a geographic area of permanent residency. They move through the desert in various places, and usually from oasis to oasis. So how do you present to these communities that do not have the concept of possession, that they are also responsible for water security in those areas, even though they do not live permanently? So with that we work to improve water practices in the nomads community, but also in the more permanent settlements of farmers that developed in the small areas within the southern part of Morocco, which is more towards the Sahara Desert, and these are permanent dwellers. The whole issue of conflict between the permanent dwellers that support and take care of their water as a very important and valuable need, and at the same time the nomads that move from oasis to oasis. In this particular case, we work on establishing interactions and mechanisms to bring together the two communities. And also we work with the nomads in particular to make them understand that any interactions that they have during their small presence in one of the oases have continuous consequences, in particular in relation to the waters in the subsurface. The diminishing quantities of water that we are seeing in the Saharan part of the lower part of Morocco, the southern part of Morocco, due to excess increase and excess of withdrawal from the surface aquifers, it's really becoming quite a challenge. So the necessity to bring these two communities together is very important in order to attain water security. These communities, both of them, are very much dependent on very scarce amounts of water. At the same time, we work with them in improving the hygiene practices and also to develop water governance mechanism that will involve all of the various stakeholders. In Peru, the Pastaza River is a transboundary river between Ecuador and Peru. We handle here another project which was of a different type. Here we have a river that comes from the high Andes Mountains, very steep river, and reaches the sea in the Pacific Ocean. At the top, at the upper watershed of the river, it is basically very green, and it's very, almost no people lives there. But then on the other side, there it goes through a geographic area which is pretty much like yours, in the sense that there are basically very scarce vegetation and very dry, and then the river actually at the end it becomes almost like a rainforest. So three different types of ecosystems, and also three different types of human settlements. In the upper part, as I say, basically very much inhabited region. And then it goes through various indigenous communities, such as the ones in this particular picture. And then at the end, it has a major cities in the lower part. So the area is also very prone to the development of petroleum wells. So there is a constant problems between the indigenous communities, the petroleum companies, and then very weak local government authorities on both sides, with different legislation in Peru and in Ecuador. So the whole concept of how to guarantee water security throughout the river with all of these conflicting and different characteristics is quite a challenge, and it's very important for both countries on the other end, both for Peru and for Ecuador, because this river is also a major contributor and a major water supplier for important cities. So in this particular project, one of our main targets has been the indigenous communities, which at the same time have local regulations that are respected and considered law by both countries. So basically the indigenous communities were the only, well, not the only, but one of the main communicators in the regions, because to them the difference between one country and the other were non-existent. They were mostly of the same tribe and along the river, and to them the existence of the border was fictitious. And all of their treatment, all of their regulations that are ancestral, that have been there for many, many centuries in relation to the handling of water were proper to them. But of course, they were also forced to comply with regulations on one side of the river from the Ecuadorian government, and on the other side of the river from the Peruvian government. So we use the communities as a mechanism to bring together and to harmonize the various regulations that existed in the watershed. At the same time, we work with the petroleum companies to apply best management practices. All of these in order to guarantee water security in the long term in this river, so that it will support the livelihoods of the local indigenous communities and at the same time provide sufficient water for the development of industry and human settlements in the bigger cities. This project also considered the fact that this area is a very interested from the biodiversity perspective, and the need to harmonize any existing regulations with in compliance to sustain the biodiversity of the region. In India, we have worked in the Wakhel River Basin, and here we work with various local organizations, and the idea was to support practices to reduce very severe modifications of the landscape that had been taking place in relation to severe rainwater runoff and erosion. Again, we work with local governments and local communities, and here, in particular, to support equitable water access. As many of you may know, India is divided in castes, and although India is quite I will say, in terms of Asia, is quite a giant in itself, and it's very rapidly progressing. Nonetheless, out of the cities and in the areas like the Wakhel River Basin, the whole concept of castes is pretty much alive. So the access to water is also caste regulated, and this definitely hampers the approach that smaller communities and farmers have to water. They do not own, in most cases, the land where they work. It's owned by feudal, I would say, owners, and so these owners are not so much interested in the quality and in particular the processes that are taking place. Most of them don't even live in these areas. So we work with the communities to help them develop ways and innovative technology to protect the erosion in this particular area. But we also help them to increase their knowledge in terms of water quality, groundwater supplies, and most importantly, sustainability of the resources. Through the 3 years that we worked in India, we managed to establish in this particular area cooperatives and also water users associations, which are now supporting water management in general in the region and contributing to water security for the future. In Rwanda, we work on integrated water security program. This is our 100% oriented program in relation to water security. As you know, Rwanda had a very severe genocide not many years ago, 12 years to 13 years ago. And the differences between the Tutsi and their and the other tribes or the other human sectors in Rwanda ended, as you all may have learned, in the killing of thousands and thousands of people. And so there is now a government of reconstruction, and that's how they call this government. But how do you concentrate on water security in such a different and such a vulnerable political situation? Our first task has been to bring together the various sectors and work with the Minister of Water and the various water authorities at the district level to integrate the various stakeholders in the decision-making process so that water in a country where water is scarce, it doesn't become another trigger for future or present conflict among the various population groups that exist in this country. We are working in the northeast and southern west part of the country, and the objective is to provide long-term water security by increasing sustainability and resilience access to water and water supply, sanitation, and hygiene. We're helping develop infrastructure and services at the community level, but also at the domestic and productive level. In Kenya and Tanzania, in the Mara River Basin, which is also a transboundary basin, we work in particular in the Serengeti region. The Serengeti, as many of you may know, is one of the most delicate ecosystems in the world, and it's the place where the migration of beast, of animal, that you have probably seen in multiple documentaries, lions, elephants, giraffes, buffaloes, hippopotamus. They migrate from Tanzania to Kenya, from Kenya to Tanzania. Again, the animals and the Indians in the Pastaza River do not know the boundaries, and water for them is crucial. It's crucial, especially in the migration period, which is in the dry season, that they can cross the river. But at the other end, in the upper watershed, both in Kenya and in Tanzania, there are numerous developments taking place that are extracting water from the river, mostly related to mining and intensive agriculture. And of course, the Serengeti is very valuable, not just for these people in Kenya and Tanzania, but it's a world heritage of ecosystems that is valuable to the entire world. So in this particular case, we worked at the local level with the various populations that exist, also with park services of the Serengeti Reserve, but most importantly, with the upper watershed industry and miners to make them aware of that their responsibility in terms of maintaining enough water in the system so that these animals, and well, you can see there how beautiful the zebras are, but they're all beautiful, they will need and to sustain them for the future. Sustaining biodiversity in this ecoregion gives another different context of water security. We usually tend to see water security in terms of having it for food, for agriculture, for maintaining humans, but in this particular area, it is basically to sustain biodiversity. We, being a university-driven program, do a lot of activities related to capacity building. And I'm just mentioning one of our programs. This is a Pan-African cab wash. We work with all of the sub-Saharan countries, basically to support NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and community-based organizations, CBOs, in their knowledge of management of local water resources. In particular, supporting them to have a place within the context of water governance. To guarantee water security, it is most important to focus on water governance. If the appropriate mechanisms are not in place to manage water resources properly, then efforts towards guaranteeing water security could be completely hampered. And in managing water resources, it is crucial to have the participation of all of the stakeholders. In these countries, particularly in Africa, communities are very much marginated. They are not contributors in the processes that lead to water security and water sustainability. But at the same time, they are the most vulnerable actors. So any processes that hamper water security is basically hampering their security of survival. Therefore, providing these local organizations with mechanisms for them to contribute and participate in governance processes is quite important. So here, as I said, we're mostly working with NGOs and CBOs. So from supporting communities and their capacity, I'm moving now to the opposite side of the spectrum, which is supporting universities to create professional capacity to support water security. And we do also a lot of this, and I'm just going to present a few examples to make some important points. And this is in a program that we are working with Colombia in the Andean Amazon, and as the Andes is the source of the Amazon, and this is a system that is, although it's one of the biggest rivers in the, is one of the biggest systems in the world, it is also very vulnerable. So in particular in the Andean zone, in its source, we are working with universities in Colombia to develop programs that have a biodiversity conservation component. So we're helping them develop curricula, develop the laboratories, and at the graduate and undergraduate level. We're working, for example, with the University Javeriana, the University of the Upper Amazon, and 10 other universities to also coordinate curricula among themselves so that it is easier for them to have students transfer from those universities that only have graduate programs to the university that has graduate programs. We also work with other universities. This is a collaboration with the Autonomous University of Mexico, and this is to exchange academicians and researchers. We promote and support researchers from Mexico come to FIU to work on various projects related to sustainability and climate change. But also for our researchers and professors from FIU to visit the university UNAM and to work with them and their students, giving lectures and doing supporting cooperative research. Now this program is being extended beyond UNAM, and we now have 3 other universities in Mexico, and we're also inviting other universities in southern Florida to become a part of the program, and through it have exchanges between their academicians and researchers. Similarly, we support fellows. That is it's kind of like a young professionals in the water sector mentoring programs. In particular, those researchers, young researchers or young professionals that are working in areas related to water security. And again, I'm just mentioning an example here with the Universidad Zamorano in Honduras, where we are mentoring a number of young professors from Miami, and we have them come to our university for around 3 months, and they work with our scientists and our professors, and then our professors or our scientists go to the Zamorano University and spend time with them, with their students, supporting them put together research projects, and also contributing to the development of laboratories. Again, our objective here is to guarantee that the flow of well-trained professionals within the academia, but also in the water sector, constitutes a warrant for the future water security of the countries, and in particular here in Honduras, but in other countries in Central America. And I'd like to finalize giving some examples of how we work in terms of water security with our integrated natural resources management and watershed projects here in your neighbor next door in Georgia. This is an ongoing program, and we are supporting the Georgian government and various stakeholders to create and implement practical models for watershed planning and management. We are also supporting the implementation of reforms and actions related to water resources management in the context of natural resources management. And we work in relation to ecosystem protection, energy supply, and agriculture. In this context, we have promoted the development of watershed and sub-watershed management plannings, and these plans are being now transferred to other sub-watersheds. So the idea would be that at the end of this project, there will be a overall examples to the in Georgia that can be then replicated, and the objective is to guarantee also the security of the water resources in the two watersheds that we're working in the lower part of the Rioni and Alassani River, but also in the lowlands or at the end of the river. We're working very closely with both ministers at the higher governmental level, but also with local community authorities. And of course, our stakeholders are definitely actors in the implementation, in the structuring and implementations of these integrated water resources management plans for water security. So, in summarizing the kind of examples that I have given you of the work that we promote and we undertake globally, and you have to understand GLOWS is really a global program, as you remember from the map that I show you. The objective is to apply integrated water resources management as a critical instrument for successfully implementing long-term benefits in developing water programs of various nature and in different areas. We also support a knowledge management platform that transfers best practices across our projects and beyond our projects into regions of intervention. So our flagship for the next year activity will be our initiative on water sustainability to take advantage of the portfolio that we have been developing, but also to test and develop IWRM sustainability assessment focus, all in the context of guaranteeing sustainability of IWRM for water security. So from this particular example that I have given you, I would like to now give you an overview of, at the global level, what UNESCO IHP is doing in terms of putting together the strategy for the upcoming phase 8 that will start January 1st next year, and it will go for 8 years. So it will end in after 8 years of completion. This 8th phase is focused on water security, and it's in response to local, regional, and global. So the IHP program basically started in 1965, and it starts with the International Hydrological Decade, and since then it had moved from various stages. Originally in green, the first part of the program, and when I transferred this into the stick, something happened. But anyway, the first part of the program, as you can see, the green years from 1965 to the end of the 1990, the program was mostly purely scientifically based, and which meant that it was mostly a development of hydrological sciences. Starting in 1990, the program started to consider not just water sciences, but also the implications of and the need to include water sciences in the development of water resources management as a tool to support the governmental part of that implies having a program in an intergovernmental entity such as UNESCO. Already in the beginning of the 21st century, with IHP 6 and afterwards in IHP 7 phase, social aspects and cultural aspects were also contributing to the development of the IHP program. And finally, in the phase that is to start next year, IHP 8, a holistic system-wide approach has been undertaken in order to address the topics that I will present in the context of water security responses. So basically, as I was saying, the first context of IHP was basically mostly experimental. And then from 1990 onwards, these were the different transitions that occurred through the program, which goes from involving the environment and recognizing that it is a changing and not a static system, to the IHP 5, which recognizes that the environment is vulnerable under different stressors, and IHP 6, that there is a system at risk, and finally on IHP 7, which is the phase that is finalizing this year, it very much addresses systems under stress. So the 8th phase of IHP 14, 21, which is the period through which this whole phase will be implemented, is considering 6 themes, and they are interconnected through various axes. The first axis aims to mobilize the international community of water thinkers in order to address the various security challenges. The second axis is to strengthen science and policy, but in particular the science-policy interface at the local, national, and global levels. And finally, to develop sufficient institutional and human capacity to address water security, with taking into consideration and keeping in mind water security for sustainability. So the whole program, or the whole phase 8, is built a little bit mimicking the UNESCO logo in 6 pillars or 6 programs, which in terms are interrelated by a baseline of cross-cutting issues, which are integrated water resources management, transboundary or shared water, the human dimension of managing and addressing water issues, the concept of governance, but also taking into consideration global change in general, which is important in order to guarantee food security. The objective that has driven the development of the IHP 8 phase is that science has to be put into action. In other words, to strengthen the society-science interface, connecting people and connecting state-of-the-art scientific through this interface in terms of various development of guidance documents, toolboxes, and knowledge platforms. The IHP 8 has, as I indicated, 6 major areas of knowledge that will be undertaken by UNESCO through their UNESCO IHP national committees at the country level. The first area of knowledge relates to disaster and hydrological change, and here are depicted the themes that were accepted by the General Conference. So the main concentration will be in risk management as a means to adapt to global changes, which includes climate change, of course, the understanding of the coupled natural resources processes, the introduction into the scientific development, the use of remote sensing data and ground truth, and also the whole concept of addressing uncertainties. The second theme that will be addressed within the UNESCO IHP 8 will be groundwater in a changing environment, and this is very close to the kind of work that you are doing here, and some of which was mentioned earlier by the head of the, or department chair. Most important, the idea is to enhance groundwater resources sustainability. As you are aware, more be this your area of expertise, in particular in countries in the process of development, and you can see this in all over our Africa and parts of Central America and Asia. The regulated use of groundwater resources is really putting in danger the livelihoods of vast quantities of people, and also endangering biodiversity. I was in Mexico just last week, and we were looking at the results of the very, very, I will say, challenging experiences that our colleagues in Mexico City are undertaking, because although the city of Mexico has always been very little by little shrinking, the amount of shrinkage that they are experiencing in some parts of the city today is just amazing. I mean, I have been going to Mexico since I was 16 years old, and I can see the difference in my lifetime. So that just tells you that there is a very severe problem, and a lot of it is due to the undiscriminated withdrawal of groundwater. Once you take the water, there's nothing there. If any of you have gone to Mexico, one of the places that you probably have visited, or if you're not, you will visit, is the Palace of the Beaux Arts, or the Palacio de Bellas Artes. That is their main theater. When that theater was built several, I would say about 200 something years ago, you will go up the stairs to the main building. Now you go down 2 steps to the plaza, and then up the stairs to the building. And so definitely this is just an example of this particular challenge in terms of sustainable groundwater resources. The other different topics that will be addressed: strategies to manage aquifer, and in particular aquifer recharge, very much in line with the example that was just given, adapting to the impacts of climate change in aquifer system. This is a very challenging scientific theme, and of course some of you are undertaking this line of research, promoting groundwater quality protection and promoting management of transboundary aquifer. Aquifer quality protection is extremely important, in particular in today and in areas related to medicine. We just opened a brand new branch of research of groundwater quality in relation to the impact of the debris coming out of hospitals. We are just having quite a revisit in terms of where are we depositing the debris from our medical institutions in the United States. And we are removing whole sites from one place to the other and repackaging it to avoid infiltration into the ground, into the groundwater. And so this is a topic of great importance. The third topic is addressing water scarcity and quality, in particular dealing with the problems of water scarcity in areas where the amount of water as it is a problem, and of course the developing trends of increased water use is even introducing additional stress. There will be 5 areas that are targeted in terms of the activities to be implemented within the IHB's aid: planning and management, dealing with present water scarcity, promoting tools, addressing water quality and pollution issues in the whole IWRM framework, and also promoting innovative tools for safety of water supplies. The 4th has to do with human settlements, and as you can see, those of you that have been working with IHB, this is a completely different approach from urban waters, which was the topic that was considered in the previous phases, towards human settlements of the future. There is an opportunity to develop the new emerging cities in a way that do not mimic the errors that had been committed in the older cities in terms of water resources. However, we are seeing in particular in areas such as China, India, some countries of Latin America, and a few countries in Africa, where basically we are building cities that are growing extremely fast, and despite the fact that today we do have the knowledge of how to do it better, they are basically just developing the same way that our multi-centurial cities in Europe and in Northern America were developed. So there's a very big increase of support towards groups that are working, trying to develop new technologies and approaches that will make these settlements, human settlements of the future, sustainable, to guarantee their water security. The 5th technical aspect of IHB aid relates to ecohydrology and the use of non-structural mechanism to address the various problems related to water management. As the whole idea is, how can we harmonize ecosystems with development, in particular around cities, but also in other in the countryside. And of course, being UNESCO an education intergovernmental entity, the whole basis supporting this this 5 themes of technical issues is the concept of water education. And here again, a lot of emphasis will be given not just to tertiary education at the university level, but also starting basically from the preschool to elementary school to high school. A lot of effort are going to be targeted to water technicians. I don't know the situation in Turkey, but in many of the countries that we work with, water technicians are disappear from the face of the earth. So basically you have engineers, which are not a lot, also the water engineers, as the rest of the engineer practices are being diminishing throughout the past 25 years. But most important, water technicians are becoming extremely, extremely difficult to find. I was in Argentina, and they anticipate that by the year 2025, they will have 50% less engineers than the amount of engineers that they need. So if some of your students are looking for a place to go, definitely Argentina is in need, a need of engineers. But for Argentina, the Minister of Water indicates that if they will experience about a 75% decrease in water technicians. And by water technicians, I mean technical hydrologs, the people that go and make the measurements of the water rivers, the people that work in water quality labs, the people that do groundwater prospection. So they are desperately trying to engage students at this at the high school level to go into vocational water-related professions to support engineers. But again, this is a major problem, and this is just an example. Us in the United States, we're having the same situation. Our South Florida Water Management District is basically offering salaries almost at the level of a junior engineer to keep their technicians. And so the water professional is a very old profession, but now it's also becoming a very old in terms of the person profession. And some people are, instead of being offered good retirements, are being offered increasing their salary to keep them. The water education definitely becomes a challenge for the maintenance of the water professionals worldwide. And so the water security challenges, in summarizing, trying to make in 2 or 3 ideas of what I have tried to convey to you throughout my presentation. Definitely, it's of utmost importance that we define the sustainability of whatever integrated water resources management scheme we're going to use. It is important that we identify the elements, characteristics, and conditions that are key to sustainability in any environment and also in any geographic area, whether it's at the community, at the national, at the regional, or global level. And it is important to continue to measure where, when, and how these elements are progressing so that we can guarantee sustainability and water security. And most important, who are the actors? Not just governments, not just local authorities, but also everybody from the communities to us are a part of guarantee water security. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share this with you. I hope that we can engage in fruitful conversations throughout these 2 days that I will be here, and I will invite you, if you would like to know more about our projects and opportunities, to visit us at our website, but also to contact us, and hopefully we will be able to have you, well, some of you in the near future, also in Miami, returning this honor that you have provided to my university through inviting me to be part of this very important 50th anniversary. Thank you very much.